In this video, we'll be working through the question you see on the screen from the 2023 Ordinary Level Maths Leaving Cert. I recommend you try the question before watching, and if you get stuck anywhere, feel free to ask for help in the comments. I will do my best to get back to you. Check out my channel for a playlist with all the other questions. Question 2 is all about complex numbers, and it's the complex number questions that probably scare the most students, but strangely enough it's probably the simplest and easiest question on the exam. The similar things come up every year. It'll take you maybe a week to learn, study a few nights a week, and you should be able to get full marks on this. That's 10-15%, well 10% I think, on just complex numbers in the exam. So do a bit of study and you should be fine, and hopefully I'll be able to help you with this question specifically. Okay, in part 1 it asks you to plot and label Z1 conjugate, the complex conjugate of Z1. Yeah, that's all they ask in part 1. So really what they're asking here is probably a few different things. They want you to put this on the map. That's what they're really asking you. But how most students, actually there is a shorter way to answer this, but I'm going to show you how most students would probably try to answer this. So most students will say, well, Z1 is equal to, and write this number down. So what is this number? And so this is a common thing to ask in complex numbers. Get a number from a graph. So this number is 3 minus 3i. 3 on the real part, minus 3 on the imaginary part. I and or. So that's a Z1. Now what's Z conjugate? Z1 conjugate, the complex conjugate. That's just changing the value of the imaginary part. These conjugates are very useful for dividing complex numbers, and I believe they probably have lots of other uses in college. I don't remember what they are, but for Leaving Cert Maths, the main use, and they are useful, is to divide two complex numbers. Anyway, we have Z1, we now have Z1 conjugate, and we need to put this on the graph, on the argand diagram. Plus 3 and plus 3. There's plus 3 and plus 3 here. That's it plotted. Do not lose the extra mark because they will take it away. They also ask you to label it. So they want you to put Z1 conjugate there. You will lose a mark for not writing that. They asked you to plot it and label it. Okay, so that's part 1. Oh, sorry, the quicker way to do it. The quicker way to do it is the conjugate is always a mirror image through the real line. So if I just took my hand here and folded it, it should land there. So get a ruler and go the same distance up. Minus 3, well then it's plus 3 up here. Now I wouldn't expect most students to do that. The exam would expect most students to do it this way. You're not going to lose marks. In fact, I think some teachers would be surprised if you just wrote it down and didn't show your work. If you did do something like this without showing your work, just write down why you did it. If you ever do anything that you don't show, write in English what you were doing. Say, I just did a rotation through the real axis, or a mirror image, or moved it up the same distance as from the straight. Something like that. Whatever you're thinking, write down. It never hurts, even if it's wrong. If you have the right answer here and you wrote the wrong reason, they won't take marks away. So it never hurts to write it down. Okay, so part 2. Part 2, plot and label Z2 and Z3. And they tell you what they look like. They are 5 plus I, and this one is 6 minus 2i. Basically plot and label these. 5 plus I, put it on here. 5 on the real. 1i is 1i. 1i on the imaginary is right here. And label it. Z3. Okay, 6 minus 2i. 6 on the real. Minus 2 on the imaginary. 6 on the real. Minus 2 on the imaginary. Z4. Apologies for that writing, but Z4. Okay, I don't think I need the diagram anymore, so I'll rub this out and make room for part 3. Okay, for part 3, they ask us to write this in the form of a plus bi, where, and then they say where a and b are elements of z. This confuses so many students, this part. All they're asking is to write this. That's all they're really asking. This makes sense to me, but I understand it confuses so many students. All this part means is a and b should be realistic looking numbers, like +6 or -7, or like they should not be 0.28. That's all that means. This just means their answer should look like -7 plus like 4i, and not like -7 plus 3 -6i plus 4i. Shouldn't look like this, should look like. That's all this means. It confuses so many students. So try not to worry about this extra part. I'll rub it out now, in fact, and I'm just going to write this as simply as I can. I'm going to go down the steps and write as simply as I can. Okay, 4z2 minus 5z3. Well, instead of z2, I know what z2 is. It's 5 plus I. So I'm going to write 4, 5 plus zi. 4 multiplied by. Minus 5, and instead of z3, I'm going to write 6 minus 2i. Questions like this come up every year, so get used to them, learn how to do them, and you should have an easy couple of marks in the exam. Okay, I just multiplied this out. We've been multiplying brackets for years now. 4 multiplied by 5 is 20. 4 times I is 4i. Minus 5 times 6 is minus 30. Do not forget the minus. Minus 5 by minus 2. 2 minuses make a plus. 5 times 2 makes 10. And 10i. There's still an I there. That's what that simplifies down to. We have 20 and minus 30. Well, that goes together, doesn't it? 20 minus 30 is minus 10. We have 4i plus 10i. Well, that's 14i. And that's it. This looks like they told us to make it look. An A, a number, plus a bi, a number in front of the I. Don't be confused if there's a minus here, by the way. That happens all the time. Because that could be like, for example, like 4 plus minus 5i. We don't write it like that, so it does confuse students there. I think the examiners usually make sure this is a plus just because of that confusion. Okay, for part 4, I think we've plenty of room to do it here. Work out Z3 with these two lines around the side of it. This is called the modulus. So work out Z3 and give your answer in Cert form. This part's going to lose a lot of students about 1 mark at the end. We'll worry about when we get there. First of all, what on earth does this mean? Z3 with these two lines. That's the first thing they're really asking you. What do these lines mean? You need to know it means the modulus. Sometimes they'll say it in English, modulus. You need to know what that is. Let me just write it again though. Instead of Z3, I'll write 6 minus 2i. And we need to know this equals the square root of whatever number's here, squared, plus whatever number's here, minus 2, squared. That's what the modulus is. You will get a couple of marks for knowing this. Even if you do this wrong, the fact that you know the square root and there's squares involved, you will get marks. But anyway, let's do it properly. Let's clear this up. 6 squared is 36. Minus 2 times minus 2 is 4. You can do all this in the calculator either. Is equal to square root of 40. Okay, now we need to do this last bit, the Cert form. Good news is, if you put this in a calculator, you'll get the answer I'm looking for down here, which is 2 times square root of 10. Most calculators at least. But let me show you how to do that. 40 can be broken into two things. 4 and 10. We could try 2 and 20 as well. But you have to stay going. What you're looking for is a number that's a square. So the square root of 4, we can do this. Sorry, that's 10 by the way. We cannot do the square root of 10. We cannot do the square root of 40. We can do the square root of 4 though. And that's already done here. Square root of 4 is 2. Square root of 10, can't do it, leave it like this. Before calculators were good, math students had to leave their answer looking like this, and that's why they still ask you to do it a bit. Now, calculators are good enough. You could have put this in, and the calculator will give you this. So that's a freebie basically. That you could, if you use your calculator correctly, you get to do less work. Okay, part B is a strange question in that it's very easy if you know it, and it's impossible if you don't. And they're asking you, they give you these four numbers, said 4, 5, 6 and 7, and they show you on an argand diagram, and they ask you which has the largest modulus. So that was like in the last part, it was the two lines of this, which is the largest modulus. And so you should be able to just answer it. You might need a ruler, a bit small for using the board, but in your exam you would probably use a ruler for this, because the modulus is actually just the distance from 0. So what you would do is just measure how far from 0 each of them are, and you would find that Z5 has the largest modulus. So they also ask you to write a reason down, and that's all I would write. Z5 is the furthest from the center, or furthest from 0. Well, however, really your own language, anything like that, furthest from 0. That's full marks for doing that. Okay, that's it for question 2. Hopefully I answered all of it correctly. If not, let me know in the comments, or if you have any follow-up questions, let me know. Until next time, have a great day.